hashtag is MetroFM Talk. It's very easy. MetroFM Talk, that is the show's hashtag. On Facebook, just a reminder to you that we are live streaming this particular conversation on all of our platforms. So do engage with us. It is MetroFM Talk. And on Facebook, MetroFM SA. On our DSTV audio channel, that magic channel is 801. And of course, online streaming is simply metrofmsa.co.za. A little bit different is going to be today. It's going to be the order of the day. For the next 2 hours, South Africa, you get to hear from the respective political parties and ask yourself the question, who am I voting for come the 29th of May? We're going to touch on an array of issues this evening. We're going to speak about unemployment. We're going to be speaking about the state of the economy. We're going to be reflecting on the past 30 years of this democracy. We're going to be looking at what solutions are there and what solutions do these political parties have for the betterment of our country. You remember what I always say to you, this is our republic. If it works for all of us. What we're going to do is we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, though, I'm going to give you a brief introduction into who our panelists are, and we're going to go straight into the conversation. Of course, this is Metro FM Talk, the Human Rights Edition.
Mpumalanga, Middleburg, 100.3. Coming at your stereo. Metro FM, your coolest urban radio station. It's where you want to be.
Before the accident, Mike's car had everything.
Bima, last number, my brother. Upa sound system. You can hear me coming from a distance. Heated seats for my shukela. Boom, boom.
Everything except quality insurance. Because Mike cut back to save money. Now, he drives a small trans. Don't be like Mike. To switch to Santam, call 0860 444 444 or visit santam.co.za. Santam is an authorized FSP, a licensed non-life insurer and controlling company for its group companies.
Saturday nights on S3 are about to get dramatic. Tune into The Player at 9:30 p.m. and catch Wesley Snipes as a pit boss as he and his team gamble on the ability of security expert Philip Winchester to stop some of the biggest crimes imaginable from playing out. Can he take them down from the inside and get revenge for the death of his wife? Or is it true what they say? The house always wins. Channel your best drama with The Player, Saturdays at 9:30 p.m. only on
Meet School, a man obsessed with gold. From gold smelting to gold digging, School would do anything for gold. He once trekked from Egoli to Tabazimbi only to find the bare mineral, platinum, not gold. But what if the gold he had been searching for was much closer? Foster till you taste real gold, Hunter's Gold. Buy any Hunters now and stand to win a gold experience. Hunters. Refreshes like nothing on earth. Not for persons under the age of 18.
All South Africans to celebrate South African Library Week from the 18th to the 24th of March 2024 under the theme Libraries Foster Social Cohesion. The week highlights the crucial role of libraries in uniting communities by offering access to information, technology, resources and programs fostering social cohesion and providing safe spaces for marginalized communities to address social and development issues.
Metro FM Talk with Faith Mangope.
The Minister of Electricity, Dr. Hossein Suramkhopa.
Load shedding simply means that the lights are on 24 hours of the day on consecutive days, 365 days a year.
Dr. Joe Pahla, our Health Minister.
Things have totally failed that a national sphere of government can intervene and totally take over. But even then, it can't be for a prolonged period. It must be to intervene to get things brought back into line to the relevant authority.
Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana.
So there are a couple of countries, Bangladesh and so on, who have joined the New Development Bank. So there will be a lot of African countries who will be part of the New Development Bank.
Dr. Aaron Mutswaledi.
We have developed a white paper which we hope it will have gone to cabinet. If they approve it, it will go out for the public to say, what do you want your country to look like in terms of citizenship, in terms of refugee status, in terms of asylum seeking, and in terms of migration.
The Minister of Justice and Correctional Services of South Africa, Ronald Lamola.
We are giving assurance to South Africans. We will announce a solution that will help us to deal with this issue of contraband, to deal with the issue of telecommunications inside our facilities.
Monday to Thursday, 7 p.m. to 9 p.m.
Can we just talk?
Metro FM Talk with Faith Mangope. Monday to Thursday, 7 p.m. to 9 p.m.
It is 11 minutes after 7 o'clock on this thoughtful Thursday evening. It is indeed a thoughtful Thursday, as it also is a Thursday where we get to commemorate Human Rights Day. The year 2024 coincides with several historic milestones in the nation's fight for fundamental human rights and freedoms. And this year's Human Rights Month is taking place under the theme, 3 decades of respect for the promotion of human rights. The question that we're asking you this evening, but can we say that we have been promoting, we have been advocating for, we have been enhancing the rights of our South African citizenship? Look, I'm not the one that's going to be the judge of it. You get to be the judge of it this evening. And with that, let me welcome our guests to this panel discussion. We're joined by ANC NEC member and Deputy Minister of Higher Education, Buti Manamela. Buti, thank you so much for joining us. We're also joined from the Democratic Alliance, Sivio Kwahube, who is the Chief Whip of the Democratic Alliance. Inkatha Freedom Party is represented by Inkosi Mzansi, who's joining us, who is the Deputy President. And from ATM, that is the African Transformation Movement, we've got Nyaniso Jeku, who's joining us as well. From Busa, that is Build One South Africa, we've got the leader, Musi Maimane, in conversation with us this evening. Rise Mzansi is represented by leader Songezo Zibi, is joining us as well. And we've got the president of Arise South Africa, Mpotagata, joining us as well. And from ActionSA, Lerato Ngobeni joins us, who is the national spokesperson. Ladies and gents, thank you so much for availing yourselves on such a significant day in history. Of course, you are the governing party, so we give you the first right to speak, Buti. As a reflection of the past 30 years of this democracy of ours and the preservation and perhaps the encouragement of human rights, how then do we start reflecting? And what do you reflect on in the highlights and the lowlights, really, perhaps, as we usher in this 3 decades of this democracy, but also looking at the preservation of human rights since what happened in 1960?
Thank you very much, Faith, for having us here, and also welcome to all the panelists, representatives of all the political parties. 30 years for us, I think, fundamentally linked to today, is about the adoption of the Bill of Rights and putting that Bill of Rights in the Constitution. It may be a simple thing to mention that we take obvious, but these are rights which were taken for granted before 1994. The right to life, importantly, which people went into, the police, apartheid regime went into, Sharpeville and into various communities in South Africa to spray bullets on people precisely because they did not respect their right to life, their right to political rights, their right to education, their right to access to health care. And most of these rights enshrined in the Constitution and in our Bill of Rights. There's been significant progress in turning these around. And I want to pick, for instance, on the right to health, where, one of the first acts of Nelson Mandela was to open up hospitals to pregnant mothers and children. And that had a huge impact on health outcomes in the country. Today, women mortality, women who die whilst pregnant or giving birth, that number has significantly reduced. Mortality of children under 5, significantly reduced. The life expectation in this country have significantly increased, which for me, I think is an important measure of the progress that has been done as it relates to enshrining the human rights in the Constitution, but also committing government to ensure that it delivers on those basic human rights. And of course, we're still a country battling with a whole range of other challenges. Some of these rights were obviously aspirational. They were not obviously done, in line with whatever budgetary constraints and pressures that we may have had. And we've had challenges in ensuring that we fully meet this particular right. But South Africa today, compared to 30 years ago, is a better country, to live in. But I think it would be a miss.
I would like to, just for the sake of time, we've got 2 hours really to go through all 8 of us, but I'm going to stop you there when you say South Africa is much better than what it was under apartheid. And Sibia, I'm going to bring you in there as, of course, the second biggest political party in the country so far. There's the Democratic Alliance actually agree that South Africa, given the past 30 years and given where we were prior to that, before 1994, that we are indeed a better country, and also reflecting on the significance of this particular day.
Good evening, Faith, and good evening to the people in the room and to my fellow panelists. I think with no doubt, South Africa is a much better place today than it was under apartheid. I think that goes without saying. And of course, and as my fellow panelists here said, the adoption of the Bill of Rights, one of the most progressive constitutions in the world, those are incredible milestones. And I think South Africa was probably almost written off before 1994, and we came out of it with a constitution that was signed and negotiated settlement. However, Faith, I think what is clear is that there's been a massive regression of not only the freedoms that are enshrined in our constitution, but the quality of life that people were essentially promised. 30 million people today are living in poverty. 7 out of 10 young people do not have work. People are dying daily in South Africa as though they are living in a war zone. And it is those things that make us reflect on a day like this, that how far are we in realizing those human rights that are enshrined? Of course, South Africa has all the makings of a great country, but we are regressing, and ultimately for us, when we diagnose what the problem is, we've got poor political leadership.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the citizenship for a second. And of course, let me bring you into this one from IFP's perspective. Because unless we understand what our rights are, we will not work towards the enforcement of those rights, and we will not demand for those rights to be preserved. When you're taking a gander at the general status quo and all 60 million plus South Africans, do we know what is enshrined in our Constitution? Do we know the Bill of Rights? What is contained within the Bill of Rights? What our rights actually are? Because if we don't know our rights, we can't fight for them.
Thank you very much, and greetings to all my colleagues here. I will say, in relation to that question, most South Africans do not understand their rights, and they don't know exactly what is in the Constitution. And that is very clear, and that is actually an indictment on us as politicians and government in particular, because we have actually failed to educate our people so that they know their rights and even how to exercise their rights.
Do you take a part in that failure as well? Because you have also been part of this governance structure, whether or not you have not been the governing party, of course, yes, like the African National Congress, but of course you've been enjoying some time in Parliament as the IFP. Does the IFP also take account of that failure to say, you know what, even us as the IFP, we failed in educating our fellow South Africans and potential voters of what is enshrined in the Constitution where their Bill of Rights is concerned?
Responsibly, I will say every South African, every leader should take a collective responsibility. However, there has to be somebody that is leading from the front, which is the leading party and the government itself. So as much as we are oppositions and leaders, we can do so much. You know, we can't actually reach everybody at the same time, but there is a person and there is somebody that should lead from the front. As we have all said here, that we all agree that so much has happened, but we have regressed drastically as the country, and we shouldn't be proud of that.
So basically you're saying that all as leaders, as you are sitting here as leaders, you have failed the Republic. Is that so?
Not necessarily so. I'm taking part of the blame collectively and responsibly so. But as I'm saying that...
But have you failed the citizenship?
Not really, us as the IFP. We haven't failed.
Who has failed the citizenship then?
I will say my friend next to me here, the ANC, as the leading party, I will say so. But also, I think it's very important to overemphasize the point that I'm trying to make here, to say, if you're a responsible leader, to some extent you must take a blame. Because even where I'm responsible, it could be possible that I haven't done as much as I should.
Let me bring in the ATM here. As we are looking at, of course, you know, it's so beautiful to see new political parties come to the fold and arise, excuse the pun, to the space where they get to, you know, start taking action and active participation within this political and this democratic discourse. As you're also looking from perhaps a youthful perspective in terms of where are we in the country, especially where the preservation and the encouragement and the enforcing of our rights, particularly the rights of young people, how would you say we're faring, Yanis?
It's been 30 years of the young people of this country figuring out whether or not the promises they grew up being told about as made ahead of 1994.
Yanisa, can I just interject you there? I have to pay some bills, otherwise we're going to get cut off. Let me go pay some bills. We're going to come back. We're going to continue the conversations.
Metro FM. Yo, it's where you want to be.
As Jack Daniel's Supers, we know a thing or two about labels. They usually hold us back unless we create our own. Think about this. We're not just trendsetters, we are the authors of our own narrative. So, Puma Wagbone. Let the world watch you and your squad groove to your own beat. Phakamisa old number 7 Pezulu and toast to the most. Jack Daniels. Make your own label. Sip responsibly. Not for sale to persons under the age of 18.
Here's to the next 30 years of epic deals from Vodacom. Get the new Samsung Galaxy S24 Ultra 256 gig on a 2.4 gig Red Core plan for only 1199 per month over 36 months. Enhance with trade-in and save up to 15,000 Rand. Plus, add a Samsung Galaxy Tab S9 FE LTE for 199 per month. Available in-store and online. T's and C's apply. Further together. Vodacom.
Those who love the beautiful game can never have enough of the incredible moments.
Like the fascinating last-minute goals, the unbelievable saves,
the top-of-the-range reviews of critical match scenarios
by the legendary Mr. Ref,
the mummies of the week,
and highly knowledgeable analysts.
Catch Soccer Zone on Mondays at 8 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 and SABC 1 at 10 p.m. Also available on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com.
Hashtag We Love It Here.
Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
From the right to education to the right to be heard.
I think human rights is about basic principles that offer a person their dignity.
Human rights are the core of our society. Celebrate with Metro FM as we honor this important month.
We were given this amazing opportunity to live a life.
Metro FM, it's where you want to be.
Can we just talk?
Metro FM Talk with Faith Mangope. Monday to Thursday, 7 p.m. to 9 p.m.
It is, of course, 23 minutes after 7 o'clock. If you've just joined us for the conversation, it is a conversation like no other. Business unusual here on Metro FM Talk as we're bringing you a live broadcast, actually coming to you straight from the SABC studios anyways. But, of course, this evening we are reflecting on a Human Rights Day or Sharpeville Day. We're also reflecting on this 30 years of democracy, but most importantly, we're doing so with individuals who represent political parties who are going to tell you why is it that you must vote for them come the 29th of May. We're also going to be reflecting on the past 30 years of this democracy to try and establish how much progress we've made, what we still need to achieve, and what we need to remain accountable for. Of course, we're still continuing with our political leaders. Yaniso, I interrupted you there before we went to go pay some bills, but I was asking you on the preservation and the implementation of the rights of our young people, especially in the country.
Thank you very much, Faith. Let me greet my fellow panelists as well as the audience and listeners at home. Indeed, it's been 30 years of figuring out whether or not the promises which were made, particularly to the parents of the young people today, are anything worth listening to. It's been 30 years of trying to find out whether or not will we ever have free education. It's been 30 years of figuring out whether or not the working class will they ever live without medical aid in order to secure quality health care, because the public system of health, both clinics and hospital, is not working for them. It's been 30 years of trying to find out whether or not life is worth living, whether or not your vote guarantees you any sense of progress in life, because you understand that voters take part on election day and their role ends there. What happens afterwards is whoever has won the election is expected to take charge of the country and improve the quality of life. It's been 30 years where people are figuring out whether or not they will ever stop living in shacks, 30 years of figuring out whether or not they will ever stop watching their backs for crime. It's 30 years where we've seen the quality of life deteriorating. You're wondering wherever you're seated whether or not it will ever improve. Yes, the rights are guaranteed and enshrined in the Constitution, but it ends there. It's on the paper. What you are supposed to feel, you asked earlier whether or not you are supposed to, with leaders have failed to teach people about their rights. It's not even something you're supposed to be taught. You're supposed to feel and experience the rights, the quality of life, the right to free education, the right to employment, the right to improvement of the standard of living. It is not something you're supposed to be taught. You must feel it, experience it, live it every day, such that you don't even need to ask whether or not I do have rights as South African. Young people today are faced with NSFAS, having to qualify or not qualify. They must worry where they are going to sleep. They must worry how they are going to study. They must worry of defunding and all these other things that they should not have to worry about. No young person must ever have to worry whether or not they are going to get through their education, because it's happening now. You can't get through your studies, you can't qualify. Even when you've graduated, even if you drop out, the quality of education you are given does not guarantee you sustainability as a human being right now. Nobody is guaranteed whether or not after graduating they will find employment, or the business idea they have, it will enable them to live. Because after all, we do these things to be able to live quality of life in the democratic dispensation.
So then there's this general understanding and consensus, and you're getting a clap for that one. And Songes, let me come to you with this one, because there's a general consensus around regression, right? And if there's a general consensus around regression, it also makes us wonder, why would South Africans subject themselves to consistent regression? If we did not make progress in 1994, okay, let's put 1994 aside. Let's say if we did not make progress in 1999, and we did not make progress in the 2000s, if we didn't make progress in 2018, why do we consistently vote for regression? Unless we are victims of our own abuse. What is it? Because ultimately it's not just about, because they were saying there's a general consensus here on this table around regression. Oh, you don't agree with it, Buti, but do other political parties agree with it? I'll come to you in just a moment, Buti. Let me go to you, Songeza. If there is this consensus around regression, why do we consistently vote then for regression?
Good evening, Faith, and thanks for having me, and good evening to everyone here and the listeners at home. So, Faith, I don't feel qualified to speak on why people vote for the ANC, to be honest, because that's your question. I can't answer it. What I can tell you, though, is that on Sharpeville Day today, which is Human Rights Day, which emanates from the brutality of the apartheid government, in the democratic dispensation, there are many ways in which people are still being violated by their own government. Through state violence, such as we saw in Sharpeville, if you think about Andries Tatane, Marikana, and so on the one hand. But other ways of dying, such as people dying of hunger, mothers taking their own lives and those of their own children because they are hungry, people having to drink water that is contaminated with sewage, and the combination of not having water and not having food is a form of slow death that people experience today. I also want to talk about the society we have become, or that we never became. We as men continue to beat up and kill South African women, and therefore women are not free. We continue to subject members of the LGBTIQ community to untold violence. And so the transformation of society into a human rights culture that we were supposed to get after 1994, we've missed out on much of it. We've got very good laws, but the culture is not there. We believe that it is time for new leaders who understand their role to go beyond just making laws, to a role that leads all of society, that provides moral and ethical leadership to society, that builds a democratic culture, a culture of human rights, a culture of caring, a culture of non-violence, whether by the state or by citizens. And 30 years since the time that I voted at 18 in 1994, it actually is time for change. And to answer your question, therefore, maybe the question is not why South Africans have continued to vote for an abusive government. It is to say to South Africans, it is time to vote for new leaders now, so that we can have a different future.
I think more than anything else, Musi, and when we look at the state of the nation is such that the third quarter, the last quarter of 2023 showed that South Africa had grown by 0.1% in terms of GDP growth. If you're looking at, for example, what has been touted or what has been projected by the IMF and the World Economic Forum and all of these institutions, they will tell you that South Africa's projected growth stands between 0.6% to about 1.1%. If we're being generous, it's sitting at about 1.5%. You couple that up, which is a conversation that I had, I think, even yesterday, about the agenda of 2030 of realizing the National Development Plan. The National Development Plan says that if we truly are to eradicate inequality and actually unemployment and have a positive growth trajectory, South Africa is supposed to grow by about 5.4%. We're not there yet. We're growing by 0.1%. If we're looking at that, and that speaks significantly to a right for us to even live in a system and in a country that provides opportunities for all, irrespective of color and creed. So how then do we reconcile where we are, the Agenda 2030 of the National Development Plan, and what is needed to realize it?
Yeah, and good evening, Faith. Good evening to fellow South Africans and to our fellow panelists. And I think it's an important discussion to be had at such a day such as this one, at a time such as this one. I think to frame the question, even in some ways relative to a comparison of apartheid, is really to us as a society to miss the point that says we should be comparing South Africa to its full potential. And you've made a very key distinction about the potential growth of 5% relative to the growth that we're experiencing today of 0.1%. So let me take one indicator of the issue. The facts are, today at Sharpeville was also a commemoration of maybe another different passbook. And that's the passbook of, if you like, an education system that is wholly dependent on your income and the circumstances of your birth. That determines where you're going to end up. The reality of it is that in quintile 1, 2, and 3, you're creating young people that are not only unemployed, but relatively unemployable. The fact is, on technical skills levels, South Africa is ranked profoundly lower. It's 101 out of 139 countries as per the WEF report. Harvard just released a report recently that indicates the fact that it's called growth through inclusion. It makes the very strong case that this says the conditions of black South Africans still resemble those in the main as those of Bantustans. So I think we need to recognize the nature of South Africa, that if you were to say what is our potential going forward, you must appreciate that we're building a different form of the multiple South Africas that we have, and we failed the basic project of building one South Africa. And therefore my argument as you sit here today, that rights can sit within a constitutional frame. But even the Constitution envisaged that the guarantee of those rights is wholly dependent on having a state that is capable, that are not constitutional delinquents. And so in many ways, if you want the right to safety, you have to go to a police station that at least has the lights on and there's water. If you want the right to a job, make sure that the economy is able to be powered up in a digital infrastructure that doesn't exist. If your ports are not working, the reality of it is simply this. South Africans enjoy their constitution, but they don't experience the guarantees that come with that constitution. Until we bring back what those who are fighting today for the right to dignity, I would put to you that there's nothing dignifying about someone who doesn't have a job and lives in poverty. There's nothing dignifying about the 83 South Africans who died today, and more will die tomorrow. So here's the bottom line. Until we build a new capable government to put a job in every home and actually focus on this sole task, let us build one South Africa, there will be no peace, and actually there should be no peace.
Well, let's talk a little bit, and I want to build with what you were saying on South Africa's constitution. South Africa's constitution has been said to be, and I hear it. And I was having a conversation, I think even on Metro FM Talk, about South Africa's constitution. It's been touted as the best constitution in the world. It is respected and honored as the best constitution in the world. But I wonder, if I were to ask South African citizens, is the experience of the ordinary South African that the South African constitution is the best in the world? That we don't hear that South Africa's constitution is the best in the world from leaders like yourselves, but we hear that South Africa's constitution is the best in the world from those who have to experience it, the 62 million or so. So is South Africa the best constitution in the world from an experiential perspective, not from a policy perspective?
Thank you so much for that question, and good evening to all the viewers and also all the fellow panelists.
I think you've touched on a very important point. And at Arise South Africa, we stand for the truth. We're a political party that says that we won't be gagged or forced to say certain things because we're afraid of funders. Our constitution is not working for the people because our people, majority of South Africans, still do not have land ownership. That's a very important question. And we can't now, after 30 years, still sit down and say that it takes time to distribute the land properly. We can't still be saying that we need new policies and new reforms to do so. The question of land is very important. If our constitution is upholding each person's right, why do majority of the people, after 30 years, they still don't have the land? The land is still owned by the same people that owned it during apartheid. So the question of our constitution, yes, I agree with you to say the laws were right, but the implementation thereof, especially by the political parties that exist today, has been a sell-out sort of implementation, where they want to implement things that will just leave the people with a 350 for today, but the question of the real land is not being answered. And when we look at where South Africans are today, South Africans are still living in poverty. Half of our people are still in poverty every single day. They are still continuing with this poverty. And every time politicians speak, it would seem that they move the goalpost to new things. But the fundamentals of wealth, the land, people owning shares on the JSE, these are black people that should be a majority represented in the economy. They are still not represented. And we have these talk shows where political parties come, and I think because maybe they are funded or their bosses will not allow them, they don't speak about the important things. South Africans need financial emancipation. We need to ensure that the land and the economy is a representative of what was fought for, not that it should be owned by a few people and those people control the rest.
So South Africa's constitution is not for all South Africans. It's on paper or for all South Africans, but the experience of the constitution is not for all South Africans.
Definitely.
Lerat, let me bring you into this one as well. Then you're sitting as ActionSA. You're saying that South Africans must vote for you. You're hoping that, you get that 50+1 majority, as I would imagine every single political party here is hoping for. What is going to make you so different?
Thank you. Is it on? Thank you, Faith, and good evening to my panelists, and good evening to the listeners of Metro FM. I have to start with a disclaimer that there's a speck in my eye at the moment. And I think if you believe in serendipity or you believe that things happen for a reason, I think the speck in my eye represents the speck in South Africa's eye. 30 years into democracy, I think, before I answer your question, is just to say, we have big politics, and that has crippled citizens' ability to participate in this democracy. And so if you look at the number of people who are waiting for political parties to get it right, it's never going to happen. What we need is for a politics that is given their job descriptions by the people of this country. And so ActionSA stands for exactly that. What we have experienced is that every time we speak about active citizenship and for the people of South Africa to participate in the political process, we leave out the fact that South Africans are exhausted of party politics. They're exhausted of those of us who come in to their home to talk about what it is we have to offer that is different. And I think that what is important is to have people and organizations like the IEC, like the civil society, that goes into communities to communicate with the people of South Africa as to why it is important for them to participate in the political process. Because those of us who are sitting here at this panel know how difficult it is to do it as political parties. And so for us as ActionSA, we are saying we want a South Africa that is energized, a South Africa that is going to say to political parties, your job description is written by us, and if we don't materialize the things we have promised you, you must punish us at the polls the next time it comes around. And the beautiful thing about South Africa is we go to the polls every 2 years. We're able to choose new leaders, and we should do that.
We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to go into the politics of every single political party. What does their manifesto stand for? What do they stand for? And more importantly, why is it that you, as South Africans, should vote for them? That's coming up.
Metro FM is where you want to be.
Brutal Fruit Spritzer presents the luxurious sounds of strawberry rouge. Imagine wisps of soft cotton candy with hints of floral botanicals. A fruity blend of wild strawberry and crisp apple flavoring. This is the first time sparkling sophistication sounds as good as it tastes. Experience liquid luxury with Brutal Fruit Spritzer. Enjoy responsibly, not for persons under the age of 18.
When it comes to a family's journey to a holiday destination, there'll always be that I Spy game with your little one that you just can't win. Never. I mean, is it apple or amalgamation? We can't help you guess the answer, but we can give you a shot at winning a car when you make a stop at a Wimpy at Engine and spend 150 Rand or more. Wimpy at Engine. Every journey is always welcome. T's and C's apply.
Yo, guys, the holidays go by too quick, ne? It's like 1 minute you're connecting with your kids, and the next you're connecting to the office printer for the 100th time. But luckily, you lose no time at the Engine Quick Shop & Co. With everything from delicious snacks to treats, we make sure shopping along a road trip is quick and convenient so you can get back to your kids. Promotion ends 30 April 2024 at your convenience. T's and C's apply. Engine. With us, you are number one.
From the streets to the airwaves.
You want to give people dignity and respect, and you want to receive it.
We've been your voice for 30 years of freedom and democracy on Metro FM.
We, the people of South Africa, feel fulfilled that humanity has taken us back into its bosom.
Metro FM, it's where you want to be.
Can we just talk?
Metro FM Talk with Faith Mangope. Monday to Thursday, 7 p.m. to 9 p.m.
All right, the time is 43 minutes after 7 o'clock on this Lawful Thursday evening. Of course, we're still bringing you that live broadcast on this very significant Human Rights Day as we're reflecting on the 30 years of democracy and freedom, but more importantly so, we're reflecting on why is it that these political parties should have your vote come the 29th of May, because we're represented by the African National Congress, we've got the Democratic Alliance, we've got the IFP, we've got Busa, we've got Rise Mzansi, Arise South Africa, and of course ActionSA that are joining us in conversation. And I tell you one thing, this is not going to be the last time we have these conversations. It's going to keep on happening all the way to the 29th of May, because South Africa, you need to know who gets to get your vote and why should they get your vote. Now, ladies and gents, this particular part of the conversation, I want us to go into your manifestos and give us a high-level interpretation of your manifestos. South Africans, many of them have said, that's fine, the fact that we get to listen to them, and some of them are 112 pages, some of them are 30 pages, some of them are 15 pages, and for some South Africans, they do not know how to completely, number one, identify with it, but also they don't know what is actually contained within your manifestos. So can we make things simple for South Africans this evening? I'm going to give you all a little bit of nothing more than 2 minutes each to give us a high-level understanding of what is contained in your manifestos, because this is what's going to determine what makes you so attractive to the ordinary South African that you deserve their vote. Is that okay? All right, so let me start off from this side of the room. We're going to start off with the Democratic Alliance, and then we're going to go all the way to Busa. So let's start off with the DA. What is contained within the DA's manifesto?
Thank you very much, Faith. I think firstly, I want to really direct this part of the conversation to the person at home. Because ultimately, we can have a very theoretical discussion here about the Constitution and what it means, which is an important discussion. But there are people at home who are languishing in hunger and joblessness, and who have the indignity of not having access to water, of not having electricity in their homes, of not having quality health care and access to that. And I want to say to them that hope is on the way, and help is on the way. But we can only experience and get that help if we all turn out to vote on the 29th of May, and we vote differently. And this is what the Democratic Alliance is offering. Number one, we want to make sure that we get people into work, particularly young people, Faith. It is a crime that 70%, almost 70% of young people do not have work. And the longer they stay out of work, the longer they become unemployable. It is a crime that over 80% of grade 4 learners in this country cannot read for meaning. It is an absolute crime because it means that poor black children are locked into perpetual poverty and a cycle where they will be excluded from the active economy for perhaps an entire generation. It is an absolute crime that people cannot access quality health care. And we are saying these are our priorities. We want to get people into work. We want to improve the quality of education, but not only just improve it for the sake of it, but make sure that the kids who leave school are employable and that the skills that we give people are ones that can be used for the economy. We want to grow an economy, give support to small businesses because we know that they are the heartbeat of a working economy. We want to reform the healthcare system, bring about universal healthcare, not with the national health insurance, which is not going to do that or achieve that, but give people quality healthcare. We want to make sure that people can be able to put their lights on. We want to resolve the energy crisis because you cannot grow an economy with a country that does not have consistent electricity. We want to be able to make sure that people can open their taps because it is an absolute crime and a shame that we sit here 30 years later and there are people who are without water in this very city who are still without water. We want to fix that. And lastly, we want to make sure that we root out corruption. Because ultimately, Faith, corruption is not a victimless crime. It is not just simply politicians stuffing their own pockets. It is money that is taken, that is meant to be for the people, that is taken away from critical services. And we want to say to the people at home, that's what you will vote for if you are voting for the Democratic Alliance on the 29th of May.
Thank you. Songezi?
Faith, South Africa is in a state of disaster. And that disaster is not a natural disaster. It's a man-made disaster. It is done by leaders who do not care, who are corrupt, and who are arrogant and entitled. The first thing that we need to do to turn this country around is to get new leaders. We need to elect new, younger, more energetic, and capable leaders and free us of many of the older people that would like to send into peaceful retirement at home so that the rest of the country can become what it really needs to be. That's the first thing we need to do. The second thing is that we need to make politics personal. We need to make government and its priorities and parliament's priorities around the issues that affect people every day. I agree with Zviwe. Hunger is a very important emergency in South Africa. 27% of kids in my province in the Eastern Cape suffer from stunting. Stunting is caused by malnutrition. There are people who die from hunger today. So the second thing we need to do is not just food, but to target problems specifically and not talk about policy positions in the abstract. The third thing that we need to do is to make sure that we build a capable state. A capable state is one where politicians legislate, politicians conduct oversight, provide policy direction, but the implementation is done by professionals who know what we're doing, which is why what the ANC has done over the last 20 years particularly, through cadre deployment and putting people in positions where they don't do the work properly, has been a crime against the South African people. And finally, Faith, we have to end the crime of youth poverty and youth unemployment. The most important thing that we need to do in that respect is to provide training opportunities for the millions of young people who do not have matric or those who just have matric, because you cannot find a job that pays a living wage if you do not have a skill that gives you the opportunity to work.
Thank you very much. We're going to take a quick break. What we're going to do when we come back from the break, we're going to also hear from ActionSA, we're going to hear from Arise South Africa, we're going to hear from the African National Congress, and then what we're going to do after all the political parties have submitted their manifestos to you, we're going to open it up for some Q&A. We're going to hopefully take some calls as well. I do know that the floor is full with some of our live audiences this evening, so it makes us that much more able to take in your comments this evening. But let's go pay some bills. We're going to come back after this.
Metro FM, it's where you want to be.
Let Checker 6060 deliver an extra happy Easter. Weekend away, we won't delay. Let's go 6060. Snook for the braai and your sweet pie. Let's go 6060. Fresh hot cross bun, we'll do the run. Let's go 6060. Let the kids play, we'll bring the clay. Let's go 6060. We'll bring you Easter with all the extras. Let's go 6060.
Seize the chance to win your share of 2 million rand every month with Spinner Zonke prize drops. Stake 2 rand or more on selected pragmatic play games every Tuesday and Thursday between 8:30 and 10:30 p.m. Hollywood Bets. Take a spin with us. T's and C's apply. Hollywood Sportsbook is a licensed betting operator. Hollywood Bet supports responsible gambling. No persons under the age of 18 years are permitted to gamble. Winners know when to stop. South African Responsible Gambling Foundation toll-free counseling line 0800 006 008 or WhatsApp help to 076 675 0710. In this country, we jump, we go far, we go big, we move. And the best way to move right now is with 20,000 Rand cashback when you buy the stylish, spacious new Kia Pegas. Cruise with a state-of-the-art infotainment system and massive boot space. Make your move now and get an incredible 20,000 Rand cashback. 20,000 bucks. Visit your nearest Kia dealership for a test drive. T's and C's apply.
Kia. Movement that inspires.
From the dark days of apartheid to the dawn of a new democracy.
There are many people who feel that it is useless and futile for us to continue talking peace and non-violence against a government whose reply is only savage attacks.
We've been there every step of the way. Happy 30 years of freedom, South Africa.
Can we just talk?
Metro FM Talk with Faith Mangope.
Monday to Thursday, 7 p.m. to 9 p.m.
It is 52 minutes after 7 o'clock. That means 8 minutes to go before the top of the hour. Of course, we're still in conversation here on Metro FM Talk as we reflect on the past 30 years of democracy. It's been done in front of a live audience. Not only that, we've got different political parties that you get to vote for come the 29th of May, South Africa, who are going to basically present themselves to you, highlight a little bit about their manifestos, and then leave you to make the decision which is the best political party for you. Now, I must say that the Democratic Alliance as well as Rise Mzansi managed to stay under the 2-minute mark. So you've got one task ahead of you there also, Lerato, because I tell you, one even went 5 seconds below. So your time is, Lerato, your time starts now.
Thank you so much, Faith. You know, our manifesto is coming up in 2 days' time, so you're welcome to watch. On the 23rd of March, this Saturday, we will be launching our manifesto at Ellis Park Arena, starting at 11 o'clock. But just the highlights. Everything that the ANC has promised our people, we are going to make it happen. We are a party as ActionSA that is actually determined to govern this country. We want to govern this country. Every other political party that is sitting here has aspirations to govern, but they actually aren't determined to govern. For us, we are saying the multiracial society we've wanted to build, we are determined to do that and build a non-racial society in South Africa. We are trendsetters as ActionSA. I see a lot of political parties, when we were coming out with the issues of illegal immigration in the country, we were labeled all sorts of things. We were xenophobic, we were all of these things. But we're seeing that the other political parties now, including the ruling party, that is now prioritizing illegal immigration. And I'm seeing that other parties are also saying now that I think they have even an 80-20 rule in terms of, you know, the number of immigrants that should be in the country and how they should be employed in the country. And so for us, we're saying that that is something that we will prioritize as ActionSA. We are also committed to bringing in leaders who are ethical. We have a zero tolerance to corruption. We've heard that said many times that, you know, parties have zero tolerance to corruption. We have demonstrated that we have that. The leader who founded ActionSA, Mr. Herman Mashaba, demonstrated that when he was the leader when he became the mayor in the city of Johannesburg. He did conduct skills audit, and he did conduct lifestyle audits, and we are committed to doing that, and we are saying we are the party that is committed to cleaning up government to make sure that all of the promises that were made in 1994 can actually materialize. And so that's what ActionSA is about. In terms of our manifesto, I don't want to give that away. We are going to be launching on Saturday on the 23rd.
Thank you very much. Arise South Africa is going to be launching our manifesto at the State Theatre in Pretoria in April on the 6th. And some of the things that we focus on, we are focusing on the truth. And the truth is the fact that South Africa is one of the richest countries in the world. Yet majority of the people live in the poverty line. And it's important for us to understand that we need to start telling the truth. That there are politicians in this country that have stolen money from the people and continue to do so. we are going to be dealing with things like land. We can't shy away from the fact that there is a minority in this country that owns land. Even after 30 years, we've got unemployment which is rampant. The land can be used to employ people, yet everybody shies away from it because they don't want to upset their handlers. We will tell it as it is. The land must come back to its rightful owners. We talk about the wealth of the country, the companies, the JSC. There are companies in this country that are owned specifically by a certain group of people, where the majority of people do not participate in the economy. They are only called workers. Yes, we know we will create jobs, but we also want to see black people owning. It's very important. We look at the educational reform. Our education is not fit for purpose. In actual fact, our education teaches people to be administrators and beggars. We need an education system that teaches people how to build and use the resources that are there. Quality healthcare in our country. We need to ensure that everybody has quality healthcare and access to that quality healthcare. Functioning electricity and water in our country. For too long, people have been at the justice of, the ruling party being corrupted ESCOM and ensuring that people suffer load shedding, which has taken away over 50 billion from our economy, which has killed so many jobs and small businesses. We need to ensure that we uproot this corrupt government and ensure that competence is replaced. Equal opportunities for all. In South Africa, it's no secret. If you are a member or you know a cadre or a comrade, you get all the tenders. You get the jobs first. Even we are seeing in educational programs as well as employment programs that people that are close to the ruling party are the first to get the jobs. We find this to be unacceptable. We need to build a country where equal opportunities are available for each person. We need to fix the justice situation. Crime in this country is rampant. It's killing our economy. It's killing many people. There are murders every day that are still not solved till date. We need to fix and utilize the technology that's available to fix our crime and justice situation in our country. Ensure that the rule of law comes back.
My alarm says that you've exceeded your 2 minutes. Much appreciated.
Thank you.
Your time starts now.
Thank you. Look, I mean, you asked an important question earlier on, and as to why do people still vote for the ANC, or the majority of people over the years have continued to do so. And it is precisely because people go to the ballot and make choices on the basis of the changes that they see around them. And that's why that consistency has been there. And I think there's been this ridiculous suggestion that people who vote for the ANC enjoy abuse and all of that. It is precisely that democratic right to make that choice in the ballot. And part of the reasons why not only at national government, but in most of the provinces and at local government, people have continued to vote for the ANC. It's precisely because they are guaranteed that socio-economic programs that the ANC have put in place over the years are going to continue. Programs such as social grants are going to continue for as long as people deserve those social grants. Programs such as the National Student Financial Aid Scheme, which is this year covering 1.2 million students who are going to university, that program is going to continue, despite the fact that some of the other political parties are threatening to discontinue the National Student Financial Aid. The ANC has just adopted the National Health Insurance, which is going to expand on the gains that have already been made in terms of health outcomes in this particular country. Part of our manifesto emphasizes the need to accelerate industrialization and also reindustrialization, which will see the already successful black industrialization program that has created or yielded more than 90,000 jobs and which has become the heartbeat of industrialization in the country.
My alarm says that the time has exceeded. Much appreciated. Let me go to Yungosi. What is contained in your manifesto that we would allow for South Africans to vote for you? Time starts now.
Thank you very much. I think first and foremost, the IFP does not pride itself with what we promise on the manifesto, but we pride ourselves in the kind of leadership that we provide. Leaders with a great sense of responsibility and a keen interest to serve people of South Africa. In terms of addressing the issue of unemployment, we are very clear. We are going to reserve jobs for South Africans. 80% of jobs in South Africa should be reserved for South Africans, and only 20% must be actually given to foreign nationals. and only specialized skills that these foreigners must bring to South Africa, and there must be a clear plan as to how do they transfer that skill. We are going to put emphasis on small, medium enterprises and make sure that small business thrive in South Africa by introducing a new conditional grant to small businesses to help them to actually thrive and make sure that they don't suffer. The IFP is going to introduce a new grant which is going to be 3,000 to all graduates who have actually finished school but they are not yet actually employed. This won't be a permanent grant, it will be a transitional grant because we know for a fact that they come from rural areas, they get NSFAS, but when they finish their education, they go back to poverty. There isn't something that helps them to transit from tertiary education into what you call job opportunities. Also, we're going to address the issue of infrastructure, make sure that our roads are repaired, our roads are maintained, and rail as well, because we can't thrive if the very infrastructure that seeks to be the foundation for our economy to grow, if it's neglected. This also goes to issue of ESCOM. We know for a fact why we are here. ESCOM has become a feeding trough of the ANC that was set, my good friend next to me here. So the IFP is going to clean that road that's in the system. Corruption will be something of the past. We are going to introduce a corruption court that will specialize in dealing with corruption matters to make sure that corruption is something of the past.
Your time is over.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Much appreciated. Your time starts. You can give him an opportunity to clap. All right, so your time starts now as ATM.
Thank you very much. The ATM is serious about improving the quality of life for the people of this country. Education comes in as one important thing. We are going to make sure that education is free and is of quality and is decolonized and compulsory. It's going to be a kind of education that responds to the economic conditions of the country. It's pointless to go to school and be unable to actively take part in the economy. It's pointless to go to school and come out having no skill, having no understanding of how the world works. Right now, if you matriculate or you graduate, you go to the economy. There's nothing you can actually do with your hands. So ATM will make sure that that kind of education is education of good quality. Reserve entry-level jobs to South Africans. There's no need why a person works at restaurant, at filling station, should actually be a foreigner. South Africans can do that. Jobs that must be done by people who are not from South Africa must be jobs which are of rare skills. A job that a South African cannot do. Also, the ATM is going to make sure that we avoid exporting raw materials. We're a country or a destination of consumption. Everybody who thinks of exporting something, they know South Africa is ready to import it. Where we should make sure that we industrialize and produce from within so that as a country, we're able to create jobs. No jobs will ever be created. People will never find the employment they are promised if we continue exporting raw materials. If big institutions come and sell sneakers, T-shirts and everything, things that can be done in the country by South Africans, and then we can export them ourselves. So as ATM, we are promising good quality of life. The hospitals that are in tatters, all we need there, we need good quality, ethical leadership that is corrupt-free, leadership that will make sure that it prioritizes the people of this country. We're also going to make sure that the reservists are brought on board to fight crime.
Much appreciated. Your time starts now. Busa.
Firstly, I think when I left Parliament and spent some time in the private sector, I've come to this conclusion, Faith, and it's an important first parting point. Talking about manifestos sometimes becomes complicated when you head to an election where no one is going to get an outright majority. I think we need to come around a plan for South Africa. And when we decided to launch a jobs plan, it was deliberately because we didn't want to be sitting in manifesto, high-valued, empty promise language. We wanted to say, let's be tangible. When we talk about a job, let's talk about a job in every home. We've got to recognize that if households in this country don't have a single person working, you undermine the dignity of that household. The kids don't wake up looking at someone waking up going to work. So let's fix that. Secondly, when we talk about a 10-point plan, part of achieving that is let's keep the lights on by ensuring that we introduce some form of build, own, operate or safe modular reactors that can keep the base load up. Thirdly, let's fix our logistics. Let's split Transnet into its component parts so that ultimately goods can move, but not only goods, let's move people, because at this point in time, it costs South Africans 40% of their income to get to work, and that's a lot. Ultimately, let's educate. Let's move the pass mark from 30% to 50%. Whose children should be proficient at 30%? Let's ensure that we give vouchers to parents so that they can choose where their kids can go. Let's keep our communities safe by making sure we devolve policing back down again to a local level so that intelligence sits on the ground, we can arrest the criminals and be much more effective. And then lastly, when I talk about appointing ethical leadership, it's not high-valued statements. We fought for the Electoral Amendment Bill so that citizens have the right to appoint, to nominate, hold accountable their leaders. That's the change. Let's bring the change.
All right, much appreciated. All our political parties. It seems as though on one point is that you all have got a good plan for this country or a manifesto for this country. And I think it needs to be acknowledged. No politician goes into political or the volatility of a political space to do harm. Your plan is good. The question then becomes, which political party is the best one to champion these plans for a better country? And I can't answer these questions. They certainly can't, because they will all respectively say the ANC, the DA, we've got ActionSA, they'll all say their political parties. That's why what we're going to do next is take the conversation to you, our audience. What I'm going to ask you to do is very quickly, literally a minute, not even 30 seconds, I'm going to have a roving mic, and please just lift up your hand. Dumela will come to you. Then just mention your name and your surname, and then also speak about which political party or which individual you're actually posing the question to so that we can keep it as quick as possible. Is that okay? All right, so let's start off. I've got lots of questions, lots of hands that are up. So we'll start from this side of the room. We'll work our way out to that side of this room. So can I give you perhaps numbers? Is that going to be okay? Right, let's do that. So with the yellow, 1. With the white, 2. Let me see, where's 3? 3 with the suit with the white. 4 with the DA, the DA, 4. And then the last one, vote, ActionSA, there, 5. Is that okay? Let me start off with the first 5. Is that all right? Let's start with the first 5, and then we're going to have another round. Don't worry, we're going to have another round of questions and Q&As. But remember what I said, name, surname, and who you're addressing the questions to. Let's keep it fast, let's keep it moving. Let's go to the first question. Who's got the microphone?
Yeah. It's me here. My name is Kumera Mulipo. I want to direct my question to Songezo Zivi. What we have observed is that we have got lack of consequences when it comes to corrupt practices, when it comes to mismanagement of projects. I can give an example of some. When I was a member of legislature, we've got so many projects, school projects, which have been abandoned. No one is facing any music. But those projects, as we speak, Nancyfield Primary School, Rasteval Secondary Schools, we spend a lot of millions of rands. No one is even facing any music. What are you going to do to ensure that we don't just misuse or abuse state resources and we get away with it? Because when you make observation, you realize that these projects are abandoned when they already spend more than 75% of the budget, but they get away with it.
Let me pause so that I can give Songezo an opportunity to respond. We can move on to the next question. I do note you. You're going to be number 2. Dumelo, let's make sure that the microphone comes aside as well. That's 2. Go ahead.
Thank you. There are just 3 things that need to be done. The first is that we need to begin the accountability at the top. We need to arrest the politicians and senior officials who enable and participate in this corruption, number 1. Number 2, we need to ensure government transparency. All contracts over the amount of 1 million rand must be published every quarter by municipalities, government departments, and other entities, so that journalists and civil society organizations can interrogate those contracts and see. The third thing that we need to do is to strengthen the NPA, the Hawks, the SA Police Services, the detective services, and intelligence services, so they can detect and lead to prosecutions of these crimes.
Okay, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we've got more questions coming in from our floor. The question that, and also I'm going to leave you at home as well. Give us a call, drop us a voice note if you do have questions for our panelists. They are here at your disposal. The fact of the matter is, come the 29th of May, they expect you to vote for them. But how do you vote for them if you do not know what they stand for? Use this opportunity, ask them the questions, and maybe that will help you decide your vote, South Africa. A quick break. We come back, we continue the conversations.
Metro FM, it's where you want to be.
As Jack Daniel's sippers, we know a thing or two about labels. They usually hold us back unless we create our own. Think about this. We're not just trendsetters, we are the authors of our own narrative. So, Pumawakbone. Let the world watch you and your squad groove to your own beat. Pakamis old number 7 Pezulu and toast to the most. Jack Daniels. Make your own label. Sip responsibly. Not for sale to persons under the age of 18.
Soccer fans, it's time to score the ultimate goal with Hollywood Bets. With a max payout of up to 30 million rand and over 100 soccer markets to bet on. Bet online now. T's and C's apply. Hollywood Sportsbook is a licensed betting operator. Hollywood Bet supports responsible gambling. No persons under the age of 18 years are permitted to gamble. Winners know when to stop. South African Responsible Gambling Foundation toll-free counseling line 0800 006 008 or WhatsApp help to 076 675 0710.
3 decades of progress.
The word, Mr. Nelson Mandela will be released at the Victor Verster prison.
3 decades of change.
On Sunday, the 11th of February, at about 3 p.m.
Cheers to 30 years of freedom. On Metro FM.
Liasa invites all South Africans to celebrate South African Library Week from the 18th to the 24th of March 2024 under the theme Libraries to Foster Social Cohesion. The week highlights the crucial role of libraries in uniting communities by offering access to information, technology, resources and programs fostering social cohesion and providing safe spaces for marginalized communities to address social and development issues.
Tune in to Metro FM as we raise awareness and stand up for human rights this month.
So human rights to me are literally what the two words are. The right to be human, the right to be human.
Let's ensure that everyone's voices are heard and respected.
Can we just talk?
Metro FM Talk with Faith Mangope. Monday to Thursday, 7 p.m. to 9 p.m.
All right, it's 12 minutes after 8 o'clock. The conversation continues this evening with our live broadcast. We've got in the studio with us ANC, the Democratic Alliance. We've got IFP. We've got ATM, Busa, Rise Mzansi, Arise South Africa, and of course ActionSA. And the question that we're asking for you this evening is, why is it that they deserve your vote? Why do they deserve their vote? And more than anything else, how are they going to fix the country? We're in the second part of our conversation where it is a Q&A session. And I'm going to go straight to those questions. Please mention your name, your surname, and then who you're addressing the question to, and very quickly. And of course, our panelists, I'm going to also encourage you to respond very speedily so that we can get through as many questions as possible. Sir, go ahead.
Thank you very much, Faith, and to everyone in the House. My question is directed to the comrade from the ANC. Chief, in 2015, we started Fees Must Fall to try and deal with the issue of NSFAS. It's 2024 now. I have a list of students who spent nights in libraries. I have a list of students who registered only late because of NSFAS, yet you speak of NSFAS. I want to find out from you, is there an actual plan to fix the education system, especially in high institutions? Number two, a student 2 weeks back was shot in Braamfontein in the very same city where your ANC government, Panyaza, deployed crime wardens, yet students are easily shot outside of university prisons. My question is there an actual plan to fix the education system in terms of funding, and is there an actual plan for safety in the prisons of universities? Thank you.
Go ahead.
Thank you so much for that question, comrade. The plan in terms of education and starting from 2015, I mean, we put in place the Hafa Commission, which then made recommendations which were fully implemented. And one of those recommendations was that we implement a fee-free higher education for specific households. And those specific households are those who are earning anything up to 350,000 rands. And we've now last year introduced for the missing middle a loan scheme, which if you apply for it and you're granted, and if you pass 50% of, I mean, if you pass on record time, meaning it's a 3 or 4 year degree, you only have to pay 50% of those. This, both the nationals, the NSFAS grant and the scheme, are covering, as we speak this year, 1.2 million students who are getting allowances. In fact, on average, every student who goes to a university or a TVET college is covered to an amount close to 120,000 rands, which is about 10,000 rands a month for each of those students. Yes, there have been glitches in terms of a certain section. Last year, about 22,000 students, could not be paid their allowances. 11,000 of those were at UNISA, but that 22,000 students who could not be paid their allowances because of this or that other documentation has since been sorted out. And yes, every year when universities and TVET colleges open, there are certain parts in our higher education institutions where we see students, outside and all of those. We were quite prompt in resolving those issues. And some of these students are students who go to university or to TVET colleges without having applied. We're quite confident that with some of the interventions on governance, but also on systems that we've put in place at the National Student Financial Aid Scheme, the scheme itself is getting better. We haven't given up. We believe that this represents the future of South Africans.
I think it's an important question to put on the table. I think I'd like to understand, certainly from the Deputy Minister, what the throughput rate is amongst TVET colleges. Because what's becoming more and more evident is the fact that too many young people are ending up stuck and incapable of being able to find work. And the proof is in the economic numbers. 7 out of 10 are not finding jobs. And therefore, I want to understand. I think it's important that we increase our vocational skills level. That no one can deny. But as things stand at the moment, you can be clear that in many of the TVET colleges, and I've spent a lot of time going into different ones, you recognize that often the quality of teaching sometimes is worrisome. The reality of it is that many young people aren't able to get through the system. So I want to understand from his perspective, how do we fix for that? Because as things stand at the moment, we can be sending as many kids to TVET colleges as possible, but they're ending up unemployed or getting stuck there.
Look, there's two different problems that you're raising. The first problem is that of unemployment. We cannot stop training for skills because the graduate are unemployed, or that the economy is not absorbing those people into employment, or whatever economic activity that they want to pursue. But what I can tell you now is that we've grown the TVET sector 5-fold, because we see the TVET sector as being at the heart of skills production, in this country. You go to most of these TVET colleges, every year, 20,000 artisans are being supplied into the economy, and none of those artisans are going on without employment. If there's any artisan out there who has been trained, trade tested, and who have been qualified, and who is
20,000.
All right, guys, hold on a second, because I also wanted to be about our listeners as well as our audience.
Graduate from our TVET college system every year, and so the problem is that we get so used to the negative reporting that we even perpetuate, that when the truth is faced, is facing us in our face, we don't even recognize it. This is what happens in our TVET colleges. We have 26 centers of specialization throughout the country, students who are recruited from employment, from the workplace, to come in and improve their skills capacity, be it in boiler making, be it in electricity, be it in all of these skills which traditionally were mostly reserved for white young kids, or young women would not even consider pursuing.
I'm going to interject there, because I also want some of our audiences
TVET colleges have done much better.
I hear you,
yes.
But let's also get to our listeners as well as our audience. You have got about a minute, sir, before I go to ads. Please do ask your question, and then I'll have them answer your question after the break.
Yeah, evening to everyone, all South Africans. My name is Silo Muila. My question, I will direct it to ATM. I want them to tell me about the problem that we are sitting at in South Africa, which is reality. People can talk about stats. My question goes about, what are they going to do when they were given an opportunity to govern? What are they going to do to fix the immigration problem that we have, especially about the influx of asylum seekers who are just coming into our country? Some are running businesses, some have illegal permits, some are into construction. The broader picture generally about the immigration problem, which is a ticking timing bomb. And I want them to clarify, because I've heard their manifesto, but they must tell me how are they planning to solve the immigration problem.
I can imagine at the ATM asking the ATM. We'll answer that question after the break. Do stay with us.
Metro FM. It's where you want to be.
Mzansi, Friends of Amstel is back and Cape Town is up first. This premium lifestyle and music experience is touching down to the mother city on the 4th of May with a star-studded lineup featuring Uncle Waffles, Kelvin Momo, Casper Nyovest, Kabza the Small, DJ Maporisa, Durban Gogo, Java, KO Focalistic and more. At Friends of Amstel, everyone is a VIP. Visit amstel.co.za to stand a chance to win tickets to this unforgettable experience. Not for sale to persons under the age of 18. Enjoy responsibly.
Those who love the beautiful game can never have enough of the incredible moments. Like the fascinating last-minute goals, the unbelievable saves, the top-of-the-range reviews of critical match scenarios by the legendary Mr. Ref, the mummies of the week, and highly knowledgeable analysts. Catch Soccer Zone on Mondays at 8 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 and SABC 1 at 10 p.m. Also available on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Hashtag We Love It Here. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game. From the dark days of apartheid to the dawn of a new democracy.
There are many people who feel that it is useless and futile for us to continue talking peace and non-violence against a government whose reply is only savage attacks.
We've been there every step of the way. Happy 30 years of freedom, South Africa. Where I want to be.
It's about damn time.
It's the place to be.
How we feeling? Turn up the music.
At the convergence of the melody and rhythm and the voice and the people who can hear it, love it, dance to it, and rejoice. Where the beat is the message and the message upbeat. Where ignorance is erased and information sets the pace. Where ambition is the mission, the destination, inspiration. And the fuel in the tank is pure unleaded perspiration. Because this is where we meet. On the corner of here we are and where we want to be. Metro FM. It's where you want to be. Metro FM Talk Recap with Faith Mangope.
E-hailing services have got criminals within the system. Are these guys not vetted? Vatuga Mbelengwa, Private Public Transport Association spokesperson.
This industry does house criminals, and not just criminals locally, but criminals from across the continent, because there's an inability to vet people effectively.
Lunga, who is a Bolt driver.
Bolt has a lot of loopholes whereby foreigners rent profiles from us.
How do illegal foreign nationals who want to become e-hailing drivers rent your profile as a South African?
I give them my credentials, they log on. When they get trips, automatically those countries, they get into my account, and then if we had an agreement of 500 a week, I take my 500 and I deposit back the rest of the money. So that's how it works.
And then things go wrong, then we're going to say it's the illegal. Come on.
Metro FM Talk with Faith Mangope. Monday to Thursday, 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Attention. Attention.
Turn it on.
You're tuned in to Metro FM, the biggest and coolest radio station in South Africa.
Banging on the radio.
Where the hits never stop and entertainment on lock.
Music turned up.
Get ready for a musical journey like no other. Metro FM. It's where you want to be.
Hey, yo, turn the beat up a little bit.
Get ready for a radio revolution that transcends boundaries and elevates your senses. From chart toppers to timeless classics, we got it all.
Sometimes it makes me wonder how I keep going.
This is more than radio.
You got me working.
This is Metro FM. We define the pulse of your musical journey. Don't just listen. Immerse yourself in the ultimate audio experience.
My flow, my show.
Where the beat never fades and the entertainment never ends.
Started like this, son.
Turn it up and let the magic unfold. Metro FM. It's where you want to be.
Can we just talk?
Metro FM Talk with Faith Mangope. Monday to Thursday, 7 p.m. to 9 p.m.
It is 24 minutes after 8 o'clock on this thoughtful Thursday evening. Of course, we're still continuing with our Human Rights Edition live broadcast here at the SABC as we're bringing you conversations with political parties where they get to explain to you as a South African why is it that they deserve your vote come the 29th of May 2024. We've been hearing from our audiences. What I'm going to do also is open up the lines so that you at home get to ask these politicians your questions. I'm going to be given some of your questions as well. So also for you at home that is phoning in, please just mention your name, your surname, and then who you're directing your question to, okay? Just to give you a little bit more insight to that, we've got the African National Congress, we've got the Democratic Alliance, IFP, we've got Busa, ATM, we've got Rise Mzansi, Arise South Africa, and ActionSA in conversation with us this evening. The question is, why is it that they deserve your vote? And you get to probe them on any matter that concerns your republic this evening as well. So those questions we're going to get in just a moment. But, of course, we had Nyaniso, a question that was coming in there from ATM, one of your members, of course, looking at how is it that you're going to be addressing the issues of illegal foreign nationals that are infiltrating or influxing our country. And, of course, because they're undocumented, there are other subsequent consequences of such.
Thank you very much. Indeed, the issue of illegal immigration in South Africa is a big problem, but it is caused by porous borders which are not tightly controlled, not tightly managed. In fact, we need to deploy resources to ensure that there's no free entry to South Africa and that everybody who comes in through law. In fact, those who come to South Africa illegally, by any means they attempt, they should be declared that they've committed treason. Because if you go to a country without legal means and you enter there illegally, there is no other thing that you are there to do. You're only there to commit crime because they aren't documented, and that makes it difficult to plan. So we need to make sure that our borders are tightly controlled. Also, we need to make sure that law enforcement agencies are well equipped. Our police must be equipped. You must bring on board police reservists to help fight that crime, so that it is known that South Africa is not a place where you can commit crime and get away with it. And that's the biggest problem by anybody who's committing crime. Our laws do not bite. Our justice system does not bite. People do as they please. As soon as we've got a tightly controlled and a justice system that bites, criminals must think twice before attempting to do any crime. And that is what we must be able to do to control porous borders. We must control them. We must deploy. They must be monitored. And we must be serious about this to protect South Africans. Labor Department must deploy practitioners to go and do some investigation and check all the businesses that are operating. You cannot continue operating a business of any kind without Labor Department knocking to find out if the owner is legal, if this business is doing everything right. It is everything that is fair now that is happening. Environmental health practitioners can also be brought on board so that those who are owning spaza shops as illegal foreign nationals, they can know that at any given point, an environmental health practitioner will come knocking, demanding documents, demanding to see if the things that you are selling them are indeed of legal. So there's a whole lot of things that we must do, but that can only be done by a government who is serious, who has got love for its people and want to protect their people.
Well, let's give you an opportunity as well to gauge with our politicians. 0860 002160. That is a studio line. Alternatively, on our WhatsApp line, it's 060 552 7303. Let me first start off with line 2. Musa in the Eastern Cape has got a question for Siviwe. Musa, good evening.
Good evening, Alfred. Good evening to your panel and the viewers at home.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. My question that I have for you, Ms. Kwakove, is that I'm living with disability, by the way. I am visa impairment. Now, I wanted to know what is your comprehensive plan? What's your clear plan in terms of improving the education system to cater for people with disabilities in this country? Because I'm being turned away. I've been failed by one of the private colleges in Portugal from Busa. I think Alfred is my witness. I'm being failed by the Department of Higher Education. I even called the higher offices, the Deputy Minister's office and the Minister's office. I was still not assisted. The Minister was there sometime last month, Mr. Benzimande, insulted Mr. Tumero to my number. Up until now, the Minister hasn't connected me as yet. So I wanted to know what is your actual plan, Ms. Kwakube, for us to be accommodated. Because the Constitution is saying that everyone has a right to education, regardless of the disability, the gender, and the race.
Musa, much appreciated. Let me go to the next caller before we get Siviwe to answer that question. We've got Ntlantla in KZN. Ntlantla, hi.
Good evening, my sister Faith, and good evening to your panelists there.
Who's your question for?
My sister, I've got a question for the ANC on the issue of Section 25. Can you hear me, my sister?
We've got you loud and clear, sir. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. On Section 25, my sister, we've got the issue of compensation. But when you go to 1961 Constitution, Act 31, Section 12C, it says unregistered landholders need to be compensated. Under what grounds do we still get to speak about compensating the thieves who have stolen our land? And today we are speaking about human rights. The ANC had failed to get 30% of the land. They just reserved it for themselves, and the white people who are still criminalizing us and taking us like slaves. Open our mouths and the rupet.
Tantla, much appreciated for this one. We're going to give Buti an opportunity to answer to that one as well. Before we go into the answers of these questions, let me go to Lebohang in Cape Town. Lebohang, hi.
Yes, how are you, Fred?
I'm very well, thanks. And you, sir? Your question is for Lerato. Go ahead.
Yes. I was asking because I hear we are talking about crime. The biggest crime that happened like years ago, which was the theft of the land and the dispossession of the Africans. So I was asking because I don't hear anyone talking about that. And then, or is it normal for black people to live like this? Because I live in Cape Town. I see it every day. White people are living their best life, and black people are being poor every day. And what are they going to do about that? Because no one is talking about that.
Much appreciated, Lebohang. Okay, let's give our panelists an opportunity to respond to some of these questions. Let's start off with a question to you, Siviwe, regarding education for persons with disabilities.
Thank you very much, and thank you to Musa for the question. I think his question is very apt. First of all, I mean, there should not be any distinction between those living with disabilities and those who are not in terms of being able to access not only primary education, but also higher education. But I think the big key thing here is that the current state of our education system is such that infrastructure is poor. In the sense that where Musa is coming from in the Eastern Cape, there are still faith schools that have pit toilets, where children are forced to swim in rivers to get to school. And how much more somebody who is differently abled, who needs to be able to access schools. And so that's why we're saying, I mean, there is a child there, Langalami Vigi, who died in a pit latrine. And so what we are saying is that not only do we have an offer in terms of tripling the number of learners who pass grade 4, who can read for meaning and pass grade 12 and walk into an higher education and training, but we also want to make sure that kids are actually quite safe and learners are able to access education in a safe environment. And right now, that currently is not happening. And then I think I just want to quickly touch on the issue that Nhlanhla raised. I know it was directed at Lerato. The issue that Nhlanhla raised about crime. The Democratic Alliance is very interested in halving the violent crimes when we're in a national government. The reason why we have been calling for the devolution of powers, of policing powers in particular in the Western Cape, is because we believe that it is not enough to have a national policing strategy when there are unique circumstances in various provinces. For instance, the Western Cape, where Nhlanhla is from, we have a serious problem of gangsterism and violent crimes. We want to be able to devolve policing powers so that we can be able to respond effectively to those. Thanks.
Much appreciated. Lebohang, and that is Lebohang in Cape Town. Let's go to Nhlanhla in KZN's question regarding what are we going to do about Section 25?
Well, I think firstly the disabled person who called, I didn't get their name. I think they mentioned that they've been Musa, who's been trying to be in contact with us. I think would like to be in contact with them. We've done, significant reforms in access to higher education institutions in terms of disabled people, and I think would want to hear what his challenges has been and see how we can intervene. Secondly, the land question. I mean, the the primary reason why the ANC was established and most other political parties subsequent to that was the land question. In 1994, when legislation was being put in place, a lot of compromises were entered into, and mostly because what was primary at the time was the stability of the country. People were dying all over the country, killed, and I think at the heart of it was the land question. And those compromises, which have resulted in legislation and the current policies that we have on the land question, whose approach was around restitution. And also, around, the compensation that are involved for, reclaim of land. A lot of progress has been done in that regard. I think as we speak, more than 30% of farm owners and people who are involved in productive, farming in this country are black people. Yes, that's not enough. Yes, also the money that has been allocated, close to 60 billion rand towards land restitution and land reform, is not sufficient because obviously of conflicting priorities. But this is the one area of priority which we are committed into ensuring that we speed it up. We have, as part of the sixth administration, led by Parliament, had public engagements around what are the possible solutions and interventions that need to be made in order for us to fast-track land redistribution and land restitution. We have since agreed with some of the recommendations that have, come out from that, and we believe that as part of our elections manifesto going into the next administration, it's about hastily implementing those recommendations that came from the public.
If I may just labor on that particular issue around land, because this has been a fast-tracking conversation for the last, 10, 20 years or so? You have been fast-tracking the whole time, and it doesn't make sense. The truth is, as Ntantla's saying, it doesn't make sense. Why? Because land is wealth. So long as land is not in the hands of the black majority, in the majority, the black majority is poor. So when land is wealth, and yet only 25 to 30% of the black majority in this country have got access to that land, agrarian land or commercial land for that matter, that in itself is a big problem. So when we're saying fast-tracking, when we've been fast-tracking for the past 20 years, how long is it going to take before fast-tracking equals to 60% of land in the hands of black people, or 80% of land, or 100% of land in the hands of black people, because they're the people that were here in the beginning?
Look, the point I'm making is that we have entered into compromises. This democracy was a negotiated settlement, and central to that settlement was the land question. And what we've been adhering to over the last 30 years was part of what constituted that settlement, which meant that land restitution and redistribution would be based on, for instance, principles of a willing buyer, willing seller, that someone has to be willing to sell the land that they have, and that the state should have the capacity to be able to pay for that land. And many of those claims have been paid, and we acknowledge that implementing that negotiated settlement has been one of the detriment that has slowed down the question of land redistribution and land restitution. And that's why part of the activation, and that's why the question is important. What's our attitude towards Section 25? It's about ensuring that we move beyond those settlements and we accelerate the question of land ownership. That's what it is. We do not disagree about the centrality of the land question. Land either for agrarian reform, land either for a settlement, which we believe also that in that regard, actually, we have done much more. Title deeds have been given to millions of South Africans, and they own that land as their property. So we have to make all of those distinctions.
Yeah.
Yes, they've been challenges
and Mr. Manamela, there is...
No,
Mr. Manamela,
the fact is, you have corrupted the system. Let's take the Mala deal. It's a prime example of how corruption inhibits transformation and empowerment of South Africans. That's a fact.
They actually need to accept that because of the negotiated settlements it's talking about, it's been 30 years, they've been trying to fast track. South Africans must forget that the ANC-led government will ever do anything about land. They should just accept and allow ATM to take over and make a meaningful contribution.
So that's that. What do you say?
Faith, if we could just add here, I think it's important, some of the facts that he gave were not true. To say that the land audit says that 4% of the land in this country belongs to black people, is owned by black people. Yet they are the majority. Not even 10, 4%. And what we are seeing is it's been 30 years of the ANC saying this in their conferences, in their documents. We are not seeing the tangible side of it. And the truth of the matter is the reason why many of them don't speak about land is because the people that own the land and don't want this process are the same people that are funding these politicians, including the ANC politicians. We saw that they were the same people who funded these people through their campaigns, the Ramaphosa CR campaign. So how are they going to talk about land when their own funders are against it? And it's important that we start to tell the truth about land, to say land is not something that we can wait to talk about tomorrow. Land needs to be spoken about today. And every political party on this table must say that they will prioritize land first, because that's the contention.
Let's go to you, Songezo.
Thanks very much, Faith. I just want to correct a couple of things. So there is no willing buyer, willing seller in our constitution. You can go and look for it. It's not there. Expropriation is allowed in South Africa. That's how you build dams, you build roads. The Gautrain here, people had to be moved.
Let me go pay some bills. I'm going to allow you to finish your thoughts after the break.
Metro FM is where you want to be.
Do you believe in love at first sight, or should I walk by again?
Is that the best you've got?
Well, I've also been wondering, did it hurt when you...
Not the angel line.
Look, I'd ask if you're a parking ticket because you look so fine. But how about we just share a castle double malt together?
Now that's smooth.
Instead of using cheesy pickup lines, simply ask her to share a Castle Double Malt with you. Perfect for finishing smooth. Be extra smooth with Castle Double Malt. Not for persons under the age of 18. Enjoy responsibly.
Hotspot Nyana Antona? John, when you've got the power to connect with prepaid LTE. I'm talking sports highlights while you pay shops in mall. Streaming your way to the front of the voting queue. And get this, 100 gigs goes for only 399 rand.
Also, he says agent when I'm
No, it's just, I just don't want to be a hotspotting agent wire.
Anyone can stay connected for less while on the go. Here's to the next 30 years of giving you more for less. Deal available only on SA's most reliable network. T's and C's apply. Further together, Vodacom.
TUT Matatanta FC ladies are hungry for victory and refuse to let their opponents shine. However, City Lads FC believe they will enjoy the final dance when the ref blows the final whistle. Who will play fascinating football for the entire duration? This is the Hollywood Bet Super League. Catch the queens of the beautiful game. TUT Matatanta FC ladies versus City Lads Ladies FC on Sunday 24 March at 2:30 p.m. Live on SABC1. Also available on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. # we love it here. Brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
Metro FM Talk with Faith Mangope.
The Minister of Electricity, Dr. Hossein Ramokgopa.
Load shedding simply means that the lights are on 24 hours of the day on consecutive days, 365 days a year.
Dr. Joe Pahla, our Health Minister.
Things have totally failed that a national sphere of government can intervene and totally take over. But even then, it can't be for a prolonged period. It must be to intervene to get things brought back into line to the relevant authority.
Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana.
So there are a couple of countries, Bangladesh and so on, have joined the New Development Bank. So there will be a lot of African countries who will be part of the New Development Bank.
Dr. Aaron Mutsualedi.
We have developed a white paper, which we hope it will have gone to cabinet. If they approve it, it will go out for the public to say, what do you want your country to look like in terms of citizenship, in terms of refugee status, in terms of asylum seeking, and in terms of migration.
The Minister of Justice and Correctional Services of South Africa, Ronald Lamola.
We are giving assurance to South Africans. We'll announce the solution that will help us to deal with this issue of contraband, to deal with the issue of telecommunications inside our facilities.
Monday to Thursday, 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Metro FM is committed to a code of conduct as outlined by the Broadcasting Complaints Commissioner of South Africa. Under the code, we are committed to giving news that is accurate, comment that is fair, and programming that is not harmful, does not amount to hate speech or violence or explicit sex. If you believe that our programming is not being adhered to, you have the right to be heard. Direct any complaint in writing to the Broadcasting Complaints Commissioner of South Africa to BCCSA, P.O. Box 412365, Craig Hall 2024, or send an email to bccsa@nabsa.co.za. For more information, please visit bccsa.co.za.
Can we just talk?
Metro FM Talk with Faith Mangope.
Monday to Thursday, 7 p.m. to 9 p.m.
Time certainly does fly when you're having fun. It's 45 minutes after 8 o'clock. Of course, we're still in this contentious issue around land. Songeza, I interrupted you before we went to a break, but do finish your thought.
Thank you, Faith. So I was saying the Constitution allows expropriation. It gets done to build mines. Farmers and villages are moved from where they are so that a mine can be built. We build dams, we build roads, we build railways. It's been done over the last 30 years. The only reason we have not had proper land justice in South Africa is because the ANC has not prioritized it. That's the only reason. Otherwise, in other cases where it's needed to be done, expropriation, it has been done. And no, it's not willing buyer, willing seller, booty. That's why it's called expropriation, not acquisition. When you have to move and the land is being needed for a public purpose, you have to move. You don't have a choice. Otherwise, we would not have Gautrain.
Much appreciated. Lebo, let me go to Lebo Hang's question as well regarding crime. And you know what's the sad part about it as well, Lerato, is that he's saying that it's sad that white people in the Western Cape are living their best life. How do we address this?
You know, I think Lebo Hang was talking about that, but he also just mentioned the issue of land and white people living their best lives. You know, one of the things I pondered on this morning is to say, you know, when apartheid was in effect, that government looked after its people, meaning white people. We have a government now that we trusted to look after us, and it has not looked after us. The fact that you have a police service that is not trusted by the people is a travesty of justice for our people in this country. People are afraid to report crimes in this country because police are complicit in the crime, in the criminality that is happening in our country. We need a police service that is professionalized. We need a police service that is paid better so that they are not susceptible to things like being bribed. And one of the things that we've got to do as this country is we need a citizenry that demands more of its public services than what we currently have. And so for us as ActionSA, it's difficult for me now because I don't want to give away our manifesto. And I wish that I wasn't even in this panel so that I don't have to talk about it because we're going to talk about it on Saturday. But for us is to say, it is important for citizens to demand more. We need to use our public anger towards us getting the things that we need from the state or the government that we choose. And so in terms of, you know, white people living their best lives in the Western Cape, white people demand things. I walk into spaces sometimes in this country for services. You will have a service provider or a receptionist or somebody working there. They will say to you, you must make a noise. If you want the service, you must make the noise. White people make the noise. White people make the noise, and they make the noises in the right places, and they demand services and they demand their rights. And we need to demand our rights in the same way, and we need to punish politicians who promise us feebs and actually not deliver on the promises that they make.
Perhaps even the ideal is that we shouldn't even get to the point where we have to make a noise in order for services to be delivered. That in itself is wrong. The fact that we have to make a noise to get something out of the country should never be accepted in any democratic dispensation. But I'm going to also go to the floor. Sir, do ask your questions. Where are you directing your question to?
Good evening. My name is Selo Mabelebele, a councillor for ActionSA in the city of Johannesburg. My question is directed at Buti Manamela. Firstly, my question is, it's a question and it's a statement at the same time. So he mentioned that South Africa is better now. I'm going to ask you this. How is it better when university students sleep in computer labs? What freedom are you talking about when you lied about free education while university students every year, they are financially, not academically, financially excluded? I am one of those students, all right? ANC has no interest in empowering the poor. That's the reason why your president was threatening South Africans to say that if you don't vote for the ANC, we are going to take away the grant That's the thing about you guys. You lie too much. You don't know the difference between the truth. Because you went to Alexandra, you promised the people of Alexandra to build 1 million houses. How many houses have you built so far? Majority.
Time, we've got 10 minutes. Buti, hold that thought as well. Please just keep that question in mind. We're going to answer it. But let me, just for the sake of time, let's get through as many questions as possible, if I may. Next question.
Okay, thank you. My name is Nazli Sharif, and my 2 questions are posed to the DA Chief Whip Siviwe Kwahube.
Question is posed. One question is posed.
Okay. Siviwe, we know the offer, the 7-point manifesto plan from the Democratic Alliance, but why should South Africans believe the DA in their manifesto and in the offer that they give to South Africa? Thank you.
Thank you very much for that one. Next question.
Thank you very much, Faith. Good evening, and thank you once again for the opportunity. My name is Trevor. I think one mistake we should never do, Faith, is to actually be fallacious in our dissection of the truth, because many of us who are in this space today understand the worth or the value of growing up in RDP houses, going to no fee-paying public schools where we get free meals given to us each day, and then we grow up and we go to tertiary institutions and we see the inside of tertiary institutions, yet our parents have no monies to their names. So for us to sit here and say there's a regression, we fail to do that. But let me move. The vibrancy of South Africa's constitutional democracy is the fact that an editor can sit and formulate a party and run for president. A pastor can formulate a political party and run for president. But my question, Faith, is that Clause 11 of the Bill of Rights speaks of the right to life, which is tantamount to quality health care. My question is for the Deputy Minister there seated to your right. How will the NHI that has been proposed for so many years finally work for the poor of the poorest who continue to still face the brunt of the inequality of our healthcare system? Thank you very much.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much. Next question.
My name is Noama Kaf. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
My name is Dalsi Mangani. I have the question for the IFP. My question is, the IFP has been part of KwaZulu government before. What would Nkosi Mzamo say was their greatest achievement, and what plans do they have for South Africa as a whole? Because it is said that IFP is a regional party, but what plans do they have for the whole of South Africa? And also, in their slogan, they say, trust us. Why should South Africans trust them? Thank you.
Much appreciated. Can I just ask that I'm just looking at the time. We literally have got about 8 minutes before I have to wrap. So can we start off with the first round of questions, please? And then if anything happens, then we'll go into the second round. Let me go to the first question that was asked by ActionSA regarding education.
The ActionSA chap said he's in the University of Johannesburg. Wits, okay. And this applies to both institutions. Now, about 5 years ago at the University of Johannesburg, just to take that example, where 48% of the students were going there being black and funded by the National Student Financial Aid Scheme. If you fast forward that to this year, 80% of the students at the University of Johannesburg are funded by the National Student Financial Aid Scheme. These are students who would not ordinarily have had that opportunity. And I can go on and break it down in terms of young black women and so on and so forth. And this is the progress that has happened at the University of Johannesburg, at the University of the Witwatersrand, and in many other universities in this country. I want us, when we end this show, for you to give me details of a student who is sleeping in a library and the institution where they are at, and let's deal with that because what is happening this year is that we have prioritized the reopening of universities. Our objective is to ensure that all students who have applied on time, who have duly been funded by the NSFAS, who have a spot at a university, that those students are not excluded. And I hope that the students that you're talking about are meeting that criteria. Then there was a question about the national health insurance. We believe that the rights extended to pregnant mothers and to also children of access to free basic healthcare should be extended to all South Africans, as is now. Those rights are only extended to those who have medical aid, and even some of the people who have medical aid insurance are, cannot cope with the cost of medical health care. And that is why we have passed, against all forms of opposition in Parliament, we have passed the National Health Insurance. The intention is to extend access to health care to people, irrespective of whether they have money or not. And that's the fundamental change. Yes, we may say, it's half-hearted socialism and all of that, but the reality is that if we do not expand access to quality health care to the majority of South Africans, irrespective of whether they can afford it or not, we would be contributing to the number one fundamental right enshrined in this constitution, which is the right to life.
Much appreciated, Siviwe.
Okay, there it is. To Nazli's question, why should people trust the Democratic Alliance when we say this? We're one of the few parties, besides the IFP and the ANC on this panel, who has been in government. So when we talk about the things that are in our manifesto, we have proof points. I want to now remind South Africans, over 90% of households in the Western Cape have access to pipe water. Over 90% of households in the Western Cape have access to electricity when Eskom is not switching their power off. And I want to also assure the people at home that when national government is failing, we will always be quick to mobilize resources to fill the gap. The Western Cape has been underfunded when it comes to allocating policing resources. And where they've failed to give us resources, we've said, fine, we will make sure that we have our own provincial and citywide policing service. But I also want to mention the point that was mentioned by Lerato about apartheid spatial planning. Over 70% of the city of Cape Town's budget is spent in poor black areas in the province. And that is a fact. And while we may not be where we need to be, we still need to dismantle apartheid spatial planning, and that is why we are prioritizing affordable housing, bringing in people closer to economic opportunities. But ultimately, in order for us to do what we've done in the Western Cape to the rest of the country, we're going to need South Africans to borrow us their vote come the 29th of May, so that we can be able to change this country and rescue South Africa, really, from the clutches of the ANC.
Let's go to the next question to Nkosi about the IFP, as well as the influence. It's supposed to be, it's a political party with national interests. We've seen the progress done in KZN, but how then do you start reflecting on the achievements of KZN and actually being a political party that represents all South Africans?
The IFP is not promising for the sake of promising. We are not newcomers. We've got a track record. In KwaZulu-Natal, we ensure that the majority of our people are working. Hence, in each and every district, there were industries that we built as the IFP. We made sure that in every district, there was an institution for higher learning, which include TVET colleges, when we were in charge. We made the point that education system was a quality education. We piloted the Grammar Trust to make sure that our own people, the black majority, has learned. We made sure that the issue of infrastructure, it was maintained. Then there was no problem of infrastructure decay in the province when the IFP was in charge. We made it a point that there was a clear line between politicians and technocrats. There were no political interference. Recently, we inherited, in fact, municipalities from the ANC in the past elections, where they were operating on an unfunded budget. Within a year, the IFP has changed that, let alone the issue of audit outcomes, which were very negative. So the IFP has a track record. People must trust us on the basis of what we have done. The issue of the IFP being a regional party, we have never been. Since the dawn of democracy, in this province in particular, we have had MPLs from then. So we are all over, but in KwaZulu-Natal, we are the majority. Why that? Because people have a reference to say what this party has done for us, which we ask people of South Africa to trust us, to do what makes people of KwaZulu-Natal to trust us so much.
Sure. Well, it certainly has been. I'm literally being told that it's about 30 seconds before I have to wrap up with everybody. So I think that I will use this opportunity to wrap up the conversation. And we will wrap up in this manner. The fact of the matter is the 29th of May is around the corner. Whether we like it, whether we do not like it, ultimately, it is you who has the power as South Africans to choose who to vote for. You get to decide which political party gets to represent you for the next 5 years. And more than anything else, we're imploring all political parties and all South Africans as well, please hold your politicians to account. You voted for them. They are supposed to govern you. And if they do not govern you to the way that you like, vote them out. And if they do govern in the way that you like, vote them in or keep them in the position of power. But ultimately, let all South Africans know that the people that have got the power at the end of the day are the ordinary citizens of this country, should you decide to cast your vote. That's why it's so important to vote on the 29th of May, because the power moves from this panel to you. And that's what South Africans need to hear at home. The power shifts from anybody that was part of the conversation from a panelist perspective and shifts to the citizenship. You know what I always say, this is our republic. If it works for everyone. Thank you so much, my panelists. I know it's not going to be the last time that we have a conversation. We're going to keep having them until we build up to the elections. Thank you so much to our guests and our audience members for being part of the conversations. Please do feel at home, because the SABC is your home. And of course, until you and I talk again on Monday, have a fantastic rest of your day. Bye-bye and God bless.
Metro FM. It's where you want to be. From the streets to the airwaves.
You want to give people dignity and respect, and you want to receive it.
We've been your voice for 30 years of freedom and democracy on Metro FM.
We, the people of South Africa, feel fulfilled that humanity has taken us back into its bosom.
Metro